Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff?
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good.
Cool.
How about yourself?
Pretty good. Tired. It was a very busy day today.
Yeah.
So I got off work last night and came home, got a few hours of sleep, and then had to wake up because at my wife's job, she had a ton of work she had to do, and she was enlisting help from you, enlisting help from me, enlisting help from Steve, everybody she could get to come and help out.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I had to go and help out, and then after that, it was her mother's birthday a couple days ago, and so her parents came over, I made them dinner, and then we were supposed to go and meet a friend for something, and then he ended up being asleep, so we drove out there and came back and had a very brief moment of respite of not having to do anything, but then she went back to work to go finish what she was doing.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway.
So, but a busy nonstop day.
It's been pretty busy. I'm probably going to have to work next Sunday, so I'm not going to have as much time off next week. Just busy all around.
Mm. Yeah, we had a party that we went to yesterday because this is
fancy pants, Jeff.
I mean, like, it was we're recording this on St. Patty's Day.
Oh, you're one of those people.
So yeah, they're just a friend of ours that, like, his family is very Irish, so they have a big celebration every year, and we were invited last year, and they invited again this year, and we had a great time. So
cool.
But it's like we're like, like in the younger like college days, and you're going to like we would go to like bars and parties and stuff like that, and that just was what we do. But now it's like every once in a while I go to the party, and it's so exhausting.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of fun, so we enjoyed it.
I don't go to parties, so
yeah, it's it. Like it's a party, and like half the people we don't know, and
sure.
But I mean, like, usually it's like the party is divided into halves of people that, like, it was like,
yeah, that's a good
his
point.
family and his family's like his his like parents' friends and stuff like that, and then on the other side was all like him and his buddies and their friends and everybody. So
yeah.
I don't know. Everyone has a good time, and there's, food and drinks and music and stuff like that. So
that's cool. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, I mentioned that I got a 3D printer.
Right.
And I also mentioned that I was interested in printing miniatures with it.
Right.
And I was actually, for a little while, I was disappointed and or afraid that I wouldn't really be able to. The first reason being that I did not have a good experience using supports. That's like anytime you have something that's like an overhang, like if a person is like holding their arm out or something like that. If it's not at a high enough angle, then the printer, because it goes from the bottom up, it goes every layer from the bottom up, it can't print something that goes down. You have to start printing it from the bottom, the lowest possible point.
Yeah. And
so you can have it start making a support from the bottom, like a little pillar that goes up and then supports the thing as it gets built up. The first time I ever made a mini, basically, the supports were really bad and really hard to remove. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, oh shoot, that's just how this is going to be. I'm not going to be able to do this. So I was concerned about that. And then I found a different way to set up the supports, and I printed some minis about a week ago. And they turned out pretty good, but they weren't really great. Then again, the material I was using was like kind of transparent and not the greatest material. So it was hard to see the details and stuff. But just a couple days ago, I decided to go ahead and print some. Like I downloaded a bunch of miniatures. In fact, I purchased one. Like I purchased the files from Hero Forge for a miniature based on my classic character Ichi. And so I went ahead and I made a batch of 5 miniatures, all of a different material, or different color material anyway, that shows all the detail a lot better. And they turned out really good.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. Like it's, I can tell that there is less detail than if I was, getting a metal one or like a resin one or something. And I'm not sure how well this material can be painted, but they look really good.
Yeah.
I'll probably put some pictures up in the show notes for this, because I'm really really proud of the results. I think it turned out really good. I'm sure there's still things I can improve.
Yeah.
But this has made me very, very hopeful for making miniatures in the future.
Yeah, he's got them on the table here, and he's got like the first couple ones that he's made, and like,
there's a world of difference between when they started and the way they look now.
No, yeah, that's definitely a huge improvement. Like a couple of them are a couple of them are just like really good, like surprisingly well detailed.
Yeah,
like some of like the finer like texture details.
If you look really close, the texture is a bit off.
Yeah, so like if it was like clothing or something like that, where there's like little intricacies and stuff like that, that's not going to show up super well. But like the overall shape of the character itself, is well defined.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like it.
Yeah.
So expect I don't know, miniature related stuff from me in the future, I guess. Yeah. All right, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Sure.
All right. I want you to imagine, Jeff, that you have been hired as a courier by some dwarves.
Okay.
So this is a fantasy setting. Okay. You've made a character. You're living in the Underdark, and you are delivering a package. I don't know. You don't know what's in the package. You're delivering a package for some dwarves.
Okay.
So you look at the address on there, and it's hard to read because I haven't said what race you are. Let's say you're not dwarf, and you don't speak Dwarven.
Okay.
But you speak Giant, and they use the same script.
Sure, yeah.
So you can see the letters, but you don't understand the language. So give me a roll a check. Give me maybe an intelligence check and see if you can determine the either intelligence or survival. What do you think would be the skill for that?
Probably just an intelligence check.
Yeah, go for it. Give me an intelligence check.
Rolled an 11. I'd give myself a couple points there bonus.
Okay, all right.
I'm pretty smart.
Well, you do get lost a little bit, but eventually you are able to find the destination for this package. And when you get there, you see that there's a cave opening in like the wall of this cavern, and you start to go down this cave. It slopes downward and it starts to get warmer and warmer. Mm-hmm. And you can see off in the distance a glow coming from somewhere around the corner. Ooh. You come around the corner and you see that the owner of this domicile is very, very large, has a particular color of scales, and has wings.
Oh.
And I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is a red dragon. Jeff, we have been through this. I am done using just red dragons.
Right.
This is a gold dragon.
Oh.
Not a red dragon.
Okay.
So this big old gold dragon, he's got like the whiskers or whatever gold dragons have.
Right, yeah.
And he says, just toss it over there. And you look over and there's a pile of packages. And in fact, there's some skeletons by those packages. You hope nothing nefarious is going on here. But anyway, the important thing is you got to your destination. And do you know what that destination is?
Where's that?
The Dragon's Hoard.
Oh. You know what? I flipped the address.
It was upside down all along.
It's not in Giant, it's in Common. I just had it upside down. Dang
exactly. It. All right, so today's magic item was submitted by David via email, and the item is called the Spiny Adamant Turtle Gauntlets.
Ooh.
So these adamantine gauntlets were engineered by a team of dwarves and commissioned by a Minotaur rune priest of debatable cultural origin. He said Minotaur.
Minotaur?
Like mini. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a joke or if Minotaur is like a small version of a Minotaur or something.
I don't know.
Anyway, at first, these gauntlets look like regular adamantine gauntlets. Your run-of-the-mill adamantine gauntlets.
Yep.
However,
garden variety adamantine.
Yes. However, once per encounter, because I think these are actually using 4th edition rules.
Okay.
Because I guess we usually use 5th edition rules for stuff like this, but I'm all for getting stuff from other, not even just other versions of D&D, but also other RPGs as well.
Sure.
If other RPGs have magic items. Anyway, as an encounter power, one or both can be transformed into bucklers that cover the entire arm from fist to elbow.
Nice.
Activating the bucklers does not prevent a character from holding a weapon in the same hand, but will impose a -1 penalty on attack rolls with held weapons. In exchange, the buckler grants a +1 AC bonus for each buckler being used defensively in the round. Not only do the bucklers improve durability, they also add offensive options. The tail of the spiny adamant turtle points toward the elbow. So I guess this is the buckler that it transforms into looks like
a spiny turtle.
A spiny
shell.
turtle, yeah.
Cool.
The tail points toward the elbow and extends far enough to allow 1d4 piercing damage to any target unlucky enough to get stuck with the elbow spike. The entire circumference of the spiny turtle shell has a jagged row of saw-like blades that mimic the functionality of a spiked shield from the 4th edition Adventurer's Vault.
Cool.
So like it has a special ability that magic item has.
Yeah.
The head of the turtle buckler points out ahead of the wearer's fist. It is double-sided and fully reversible with a minor action and locks into place using a push pin. The needle hose head comes to a sharp point that wounds for 1d6 piercing damage, while the box head on the opposite causes 1d6 blunt damage to the target. So this has different damage types. You can do that. You can either stab them or just like whack them.
Right.
With it.
Yeah.
This design is optimal for 2 different damage types as may be necessary for striking in different situations, while leaving the hands potentially free for follow-up grab maneuvers. These gauntlets allow unarmed fighters to greatly excel while not conflicting too much with more traditional weapon fighters who may want to use them also. The greatest drawback potentially rests with the 2-weapon fighter who must give up one or both of his 2 attacks in order to gain the +1 AC bonus per buckler. Still, having the option to give up attacks to gain AC may be valuable in certain extreme situations.
Yeah.
So yeah, it at its base, it has a trade-off of trading off your offensive capability for defensive capability. It's got some options too. And hey, you got a little turtle on your arm.
Yeah. And it looks like you can change it back and forth. So like you don't have to have the shields out if you don't want to. So,
Sure.
Like if you just need a little extra AC that, for that battle.
Yep. And in the more tactical game of 4th edition D&D, I think that all those options are really, really cool. I think those would fit really well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, there isn't really too much else to say. I think it's a pretty good item and pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, anything turtle themed is pretty sweet.
Sure. So yeah, once again, that was the Spiny Adamant Turtle Gauntlets submitted by David. So thank you very much, David. So Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for us to discuss on the show, or questions for us to answer, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Yes. And before we go any further, we do have a giveaway to give away today.
Okay.
So
that's new.
That is it now? We've been doing it for a year, I think. I don't know if it's been over a year. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I don't know when we started.
But so we are giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs from Goblinstone.
Yeah,
it's a great adventure, and Goblinstone is a great content creator. For anybody who's not familiar with Chapel on the Cliffs, it's a 5th edition adventure for, I think it's like 2nd through 4th level characters or something.
Yeah, got some spooky themes.
It's definitely really, really cool. I think it starts out with like players just show up in like a nearly abandoned town, and like monsters attack the town regularly, and so on and so on. It's really cool. So
do they mostly come at night? Mostly?
Is that
I'm sorry. Go
ahead.
Is that a
reference?
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Anyway, look at that. Actually, Jeff, who's today's winner?
Today's winner is David.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. Congratulations, David. I did not realize that when I was putting everything together for this episode.
Yeah.
So
I think we've had that happen like 1 or 2 times before.
A couple times, yeah.
Every once in a while, which, thank you for contributing
absolutely.
In ways, in all ways.
Yeah. So David, you should be getting that in your email within the next week or two. If you have not, be sure to let me know. And I do ask that, depending on whether you like it or not, be sure to let Goblinstone know what you think. Give them a review. And hey, since we've been doing this for almost a year, probably about around 50 episodes, I hope that Goblinstone has gotten 50 more reviews.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful.
That would be. So yeah, everybody who has gotten one of these, leave Goblinstone a review. That's the best thing that you can do to say thank you, I'm sure, is to help them improve.
Or if you just haven't gotten around to playing it yet, maybe, do like a little a little one-off adventure with some buddies or something.
There you go.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, thank you, David, for contributing and for entering the drawing. Speaking of which, Jeff, if anybody wanted to enter this drawing, how would they do that?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the subject line "Chapel on the Cliffs," and in the email you can send like a picture of a turtle or something. I don't know.
I suppose so. We got I don't think he's won yet, but there's somebody that submitted an email that it's like a picture of a stormtrooper helmet, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that whenever this person wins.
Right.
So yeah,
which again, your odds are pretty good because
odds are pretty good. We got a bunch within the last couple weeks, but we always need more.
Yeah.
So yeah, please enter this drawing. It's a free adventure, and it's a great adventure too.
Yeah.
So yeah. Before we go any further, I want to thank all of our patrons for making this show happen. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. For anyone who's not familiar, Patreon is an online service where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to a content creator of your choice. Basically, you can help us make the show, and then in return, we give you free stuff in return. I guess it's not free because you are donating.
Sure.
We give you stuff in return. Give you bonus stuff.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea, we've got some fiction that I write every week. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, we had an episode that was a short story read by me. That's a story that I wrote for this. I wrote that a few months ago. It is on the Patreon in text form right now. So every month, if you liked that, every month I come out with a story of similar quality, not necessarily similar style or similar theme or anything. Like I try to be fairly different in the things that I do. But if you thought that was well written, every month, and that's on the lowest tier. Sure. You only have to donate $1 to get one of those every single month.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we've got outtakes. We've got a monthly bonus podcast, InterPatronConflict, where we talk about various topics. We've been going through some little like text adventure things lately, which have been a lot of fun. I think that by the time this episode goes out, we might. I don't think it'll quite be the next month yet, but we will probably have one of those fairly soon within the next week or two.
Cool.
And then also we have a monthly Roll20 game, which I think the day this episode goes out will be we're going to be playing the Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 RPG again.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And also I'll write about your character for my monthly fantasy fiction. So again, if you liked the bonus episode a couple weeks ago, there's more of that in text form every month.
Right.
So yeah, check that out. So go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. If you like any of the rewards there, think about donating. And if you can't donate or you don't want to or whatever, just tell a friend, leave us a review. Even the fact that you're just listening is great.
Yes.
So thank you all for listening.
Yep.
And then just one last thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy at critacademy.com. They make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They're a great podcast. They released a book with a bunch of their tips and tricks a few months ago. I helped write it. So check that out. That's on their website, critacademy.com. D&D Character Lab. Garen and Dan make characters and pit them against each other to debate whose is better. And Brute Force and Ignorance is an actual play podcast on there. They actually recently did something that surprised me. They had an encounter with a Gorgon, and one of the characters got petrified.
Oh, no.
And, like, I don't know. I was expecting, they're going to, like, immediately find a cure or something, and then whatever. But, I mean, they did eventually. Spoilers. They did eventually unpetrify the character, but it took a while.
Yeah.
And, it was some work doing. So I was definitely surprised when that happened.
Right, yeah.
So, because that, doesn't happen often. Anyway. So check them out. Check all the other podcasts out on there. And, yeah, you want to get into some questions, Jeff?
Sure.
All right, let me... Carl. There we go.
Our first question comes from Carl through email, and they ask, my current campaign is wrapping up soon, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to use a homebrew adventure path or an official Wizards of the Coast campaign. What are the pros and cons of each?
Yeah, so what he's asking is, what are the pros and cons of playing something like Tomb of Annihilation, or Hoard of the Dragon Queen, or... what are some of the other Wizards of the Coast ones? Storm King's Thunder. That's another one. Yeah. So Wizards of the Coast comes out with like every few months. They come out with one of these like hardcover books that you can buy that has essentially an entire campaign in that book. Some of them start at a level higher than one. So maybe depending on what level you're starting at, you might want to, play a little bit of homebrew stuff first and then jump into this.
Yeah.
But the idea being that you've got this book, everything you need is in that book. The players just need to make characters and then go through it.
Right.
The alternative, of course, being that you homebrew everything, or at least you primarily homebrew it.
Yeah.
In that you are making your own adventures, you're making your own NPCs, your own encounters, and so on. I do want to say I'm sure we've covered this sort of topic in the past. Maybe not necessarily gone over the exact pros and cons of each, but we're happy to, bring some new stuff to the table. And if we did talk about this in the past, I'm sure that since then there have been quite a few more of these. Some more ones that come to mind. Curse of Strahd is another one.
Yeah.
Waterdeep Dragon Heist, whatever it is, whatever. The word Waterdeep and Dragon and Heist. Those 3 words are in the title. I'm sure I'm getting it wrong. But so there's a lot of these out now.
The Heist Dragon Deep Water. Sorry, go on.
Good job, Jeff. So I guess let's start with the benefits of doing an unofficial Wizards of the Coast campaign. It's easy. I mean, it's a lot of work to come up with your own stuff.
Right.
If you have the book all there, all you have to do is just read it.
Sure, right.
Read it and be familiar with it. So anyway, it's easier to run an official, like a pre-written campaign. It, as long as you know your players, you can pretty easily start planning things that are going to be happening later and start incorporating them earlier on. So like, let's say, I will actually use Age of Worms as an example.
Yep.
Because that was basically the same thing. It was back before there weren't really like hardcover books. Like there was one at the time. It was the Shackled City Adventure Path.
Yeah.
Was an actual, it was probably the first hardcover adventure path that had come out at the time. But it was in a series of magazines. So it was in Dungeon Magazine.
Right.
It was like 12 issues long. And so with that, I could, because when we started when about half of the issues had come out. I didn't know how it was going to end, but I at least knew, well, by the midpoint, this stuff is going to be in play. And so we were able to use that to try and lead up to things. For example, when we first started, our good friend Jay saw one of the pictures in the magazine. Because, I mean, I didn't know I was going to be running this. I was like, oh, man, look at these cool things in this adventure. And there was in one of the adventures a pair of swords that you get as like treasure at the end of one of the adventures. And he fell in love with these 2 swords. Yeah. He thought this was the coolest thing. So he built his entire character around getting those 2 swords.
Yeah.
And I was all for that. I think that was a great thing on his part. And I'm glad that I did not try to shoot it down or something.
Sure.
If you have an official adventure path and you've read it and you're familiar with it, you can sort of use what you know about the players and be like, oh, there may be a point in this adventure where you're going to encounter blank. And if you know that player likes blank, then you can kind of like nudge them towards doing that, or just tell them about it. And if they like it, they can try to, gear their character towards it. Or if they don't like it, then you can not do that, I guess. But it gives you the freedom to focus more on incorporating your party into the fiction. It lets you focus more on like, I don't know, just adding your own things to an existing framework so that you don't have to spend as much time coming up with the actual thing. Now, one of the cons is that it is more restrictive.
Right.
When the plot revolves around X, Y, and Z, you kind of have to stick to X, Y, and Z unless you're really good at changing things and then I don't know, unless you're really confident in your ability to adjust what's there.
Yeah, but not like rate yourself into a corner or something.
Yeah.
It could be tricky working with an already set up like scenario like that. Like,
sure.
I don't know. Like it can be a lot of fun though, like adding in like your own personal flavor to
it can be
pre-written adventures and stuff.
Yeah, I personally find that I'm at my best when I'm taking something that exists and then enhancing it, using putting my own spin on it, and so on.
Yeah.
So it is more restrictive. It's going to probably feel more railroady. Now, we've said before in the past, as I've said, I don't think that being railroaded is inherently bad. I think that it's all about how you do it and whether the players realize it, whether the players are enjoying what they're doing. So, but if a player wants to do something that could potentially derail the whole campaign, it might be a lot harder to say yes. It might be a lot more appealing to say no, even though you're stifling players' creativity.
Right.
And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but different groups are going to handle that different ways. But some people hate the idea of there being a predetermined outcome, even no matter how broad that outcome is. They're like, no, I want to be able to light my hometown on fire. I want that to be an option. And it's like, well, but you have to come back a year later. Nope, I want that to be an option. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there was an adventure. It was a pre-written adventure. It was one of the hardcover ones, and like the beginning of the one of the first adventures involves like some orcs or something like that.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, what do we do if we what happens if we try to like be friendly with the orcs?
Yeah.
And the book had nothing for it.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, they're orcs. You're not going to do that. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would say another con of running a pre-written adventure path is that you are not the person that wrote it. So number one, some things might be hard to understand. The person who wrote it might think, oh, this is super self-explanatory. This is going to be great.
Oh, right.
But then the person reading it, the person playing it might not understand that. Or conversely, the person who wrote it might think what they wrote is really good when in truth it's really bad. There is an adventure in the Age of Worms that is real bad. And it is regarded by basically everybody who, at least on the forums I go to, on Paizo.com's message board forums, which is Paizo's the company that made it.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody that runs it posts on there and is like, is it just me or is this adventure really bad?
Which one was it?
It was the second one. It was the one where like you go down into a mine and then there's 3 separate dungeons you can go to, all of which are literally separated by like 30 feet. And you are supposed to go into one, defeat everybody in that dungeon without any of them alerting the other 2. And then somehow you rest and come back and then fight another one and then rest and then come back and then fight the third one. When it's like if somebody came and was firing guns in your neighbor's house and then left, came back the next day, fired some more guns in your other neighbor's house, and then left and came back. And the whole time you're just like, gosh, they sure are getting up to some crazy stuff next door.
Right.
Better not call the cops or anything.
Right. Yeah.
It's really, it's a meat grinder because it's just like encounter after encounter after encounter. And at any point, a canny DM will have an enemy run away and alert the other 2 dungeons.
Yeah.
And then after you've beaten these 3 dungeons, which really don't give you a worthwhile place to rest, unless the DM lets you leave and come back, which, doesn't really make sense. But after you've beaten these 3 really difficult dungeons, then you have to immediately fight a really powerful boss. It was just a huge meat grinder. Also, one of the dungeons was just a giant maze, which we've talked about mazes in the past and why I think they don't work. This adventure is one of the reasons why I don't think that they work. And it was real bad. But people on the forums were able to be like, I like what they did with that, but the execution was really bad. I like what they were going for, but the execution was really bad.
Sure.
So instead, use this other adventure instead and just swap this out for this and so on. But I'm sure that the writer of that adventure was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. Yeah. This is going to be an awesome dungeon.
Right.
But then...
So sometimes you have a couple like pretty good ideas, but when you slap them together, it becomes a mess. And
it
just happens.
When you're making your own adventure, I'm sure that's going to happen too. It's just a question of whether it becomes an issue or not. So yeah, the pros are it's easy,
right?
It's less work.
Yep.
And it frees up your creativity to do other things.
Yeah.
Like, people like me have an easier time doing that.
Yeah. You can focus on like the finer details when you don't have to worry about the overall structure.
Exactly.
So,
And then the cons are they are a bit more restrictive.
Yep.
Sometimes it can be hard to interpret what the writer was going for.
Right, yeah.
That sort of thing.
It's definitely best to like read through the entire, campaign book if you can.
Also, I suppose this could be listed as a con. It's more expensive.
True, yeah. Like those books are around like $50.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so if you're one of the many people that isn't an amount of money you can throw away. And also, heck, maybe you're also one of the many people who you don't know if this group is actually going to make it past the 3rd session.
Exactly.
You don't want to spend $50 and then find out, well, I guess we can't play anymore.
Right.
what did I spend all this money on this book for?
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a con in that case. You know, there is a buy-in, whether that is significant to an individual person or not. It is a buy-in. So I guess let's talk about homebrew adventure paths.
Sure.
The first pro I would say is you have freedom to do literally anything.
Yeah. It's all up to you at that point.
Yeah. You are only limited by your creativity and your time.
Yeah.
So whatever you can think of, you can do it. There's flexibility. If you get a couple adventures in and then you realize, my players aren't really digging this main plot thread I had them on, I'll just rewrite it.
Yeah, just throw that out the window.
They don't like the big bad. I'll make up another big bad that comes and kills that big bad.
Oh, so like in the show Buffy.
Okay.
Right. Like the whole I'm going to get this completely wrong. Sorry Buffy fans. But like I feel like in the whole first season they're playing up, there's like this like master vampire guy, and he's the big bad, and he's trying to like summon this great demon thing or something. He's basically like he's a big bad that's summoning a bigger bad.
Sure.
And then like they get to the point where the bigger bad shows up, and it's just like this weird kid, and he's like, I don't know, like he's just supposed to be like this great evil, but he's a kid, so he's got to come into his power or something like that.
Sure.
And
I think I know what happened. I haven't really watched the show, but I think I saw the episode you're thinking of.
So it's like, okay, there's this kid now. What's the deal? And it's sort of like whatever. And then Spike shows up, and he's this bad, like he's like, I'm a bad guy, he's the cool bad boy vampire, and his like girlfriend Drusilla, who is
I remember those names,
crazy, and he just comes in and just like throws him in a pit.
Yeah,
like Spike shows up and says, "No, this kid's dumb." Throws him in a pit, and then he's the new big bad because he's just like,
sure,
he's the new bad boy in town.
Yeah. So you've got freedom, you've got flexibility. You can't. Although I said that you can, with a pre-written thing, you can like kind of try to tailor or like encourage your players down a particular path. With a homebrew adventure path, that is like times 10, because you can literally build the entire adventure, the entire campaign around the characters. Which there really isn't anything that can compare to that. Like that is such a cool thing to do when you really incorporate what the players want, what the players, enjoy doing. You can really play all that up.
Yeah.
Now, and also it's free, just whatever time you want to put in.
Right. Yeah.
If you've got a computer, if you've got paper and pencil, you can come up with
or just
whatever
like
you want.
Really good memory.
I suppose that's true. I'm sure the cavemen, when they were playing D&D, they had to just eventually they started. That's probably what the first cave drawings were. They were drawing out the counter.
Right.
They drew the grid, but the grid was lost over time. But the downside is it is dependent entirely on your creativity.
Right.
If you are like me, if you are bad at writing adventures,
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of. Well, that's another. That's a separate one. It is also a lot of work. It's very dependent on your ability to come up with cool stuff. It is a lot of work.
Yep.
It's hard.
Yeah.
We've talked about making encounters. We've talked about making cities. Those sorts of things. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make it, and it's a lot of work to make it good.
Yeah. And like because you can make it so it's less railroady, then you have to prepare for all these other possibilities. Yeah. Because like if you're just following the path, like it's railroady, but if it's well written enough, it can still be a lot of fun, and there's still some freedom in there, and you don't have to worry about like having to like create a whole another section of the world because your characters the players took a left instead of a right.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's a lot of work, and that's why I generally try to run. I generally run pre-written stuff. I really I've never run an entire campaign that I myself have written everything for.
Sure.
Our actual play, I know I keep dropping that in there. Whenever it comes out, that is going to be probably the biggest endeavor that I've done, that I've written purely on my own.
Sure.
And as such, it is very nerve-wracking because I want it to be good.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of work, and it's hard. And, and I can't be like, hey, Jeff, you're in my game, but hey, what do you think of this idea? Because, I'm hesitant to do that because I don't although I want your opinion on stuff,
right.
I don't want to tell you everything that's going to happen because I want it to be a surprise.
Right. Yeah. Although, like I sort of fight with this, like, should you tell the players what's going to happen so that they can like play along more or something like that? Because like, if you build the adventure ahead of time with the players, they can more, easily follow along with the story and not, go off rails. Sure. But is that less enjoyable because there's less surprises and stuff like that?
I guess that could be a topic on a future episode. If anybody writes that out to us in an email, how would they get that email to us, Jeff?
They would send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
There you go. So it's really a question of how much work do you want to put in? I guess potentially how much money do you want to put in, and how creative are you, and how many ideas do you have?
Right.
And
it's with the pre-made one, you read through the whole book and you kind of know, where things lead.
Yeah.
You can get a good idea. With a homebrew one, because you can kind of tailor it to what happens. Like, you don't really want to put too much work into like the whole thing. Like, you maybe want a basic structure, but you don't want to write out the whole adventure.
Sure.
If the whole idea is for you to kind of tailor it to your players and their characters and stuff like that. So you don't want to work too far ahead.
Yeah.
Because then if you do that, then they might end up going a completely different direction.
Sure.
And if you're not, if you're the way that you're writing these adventures isn't, you're not making it to be kind of railroady, I just feel like the pre-made ones are structured in a way that it's hard to kind of go off the rails too much.
Sure.
They at least try to make it so it's a little like it's a funnel, they get them in the right direction to where like when they finish one adventure, you can start the next one.
Sure.
But if you're giving them, if you're making stuff up as you go along and giving the players a lot of freedom, like you don't want to plan too far ahead, which we've talked about before.
That's definitely a concern. Yeah. That's something that I've been encountering with the actual play, because I do want to have an idea of where the campaign is going to go, but I don't want to dictate what you guys do. So I want there to be freedom. So I can't really plan too far ahead. I want to try to always have several things that could be going on. So depending on, wherever you guys want to take it. So yeah, I don't have any opinions on the actual adventure paths themselves. Like, I don't know which one's the best one or whatever. I haven't really read the 5th edition ones too. I've seen little bits and pieces, but the idea of the Dragon Heist one seems really cool. I do really like the idea of that one. I kind of like the idea of Tomb of Annihilation, but I played a little bit of Tomb of Annihilation, and I don't know if it was just the group I was in or whatever, but it was a little dull at first.
I'm just happy of its existence because it brought totals to
there you go
to the
there you go
5e official. So
yeah, so I personally like using pre-written stuff, but I don't want to stop anybody out there from creating their own stuff. Just see what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, our next question comes from Collins B on Discord. Do you prefer rolling loot on random loot tables or planning out in advance what loot players find?
This is kind of similar to the last question, in that it's a question of like whether you have good ideas for what you want the players to find.
Right.
If you don't, go ahead and roll. And then, you've taken the decisions out of your hands, but you can, I'm sure you can find ways to make the best out of what happens.
Because sometimes, like random stuff can be fun sometimes. And you can kind of work it into what you're doing. Like, you'd be like, all right, I could spin this to make it work to what I was thinking of doing. And like even stuff like treasure, like it could be like just like a simple, like, I don't know, like a simple piece of art or something like that.
Oh yeah,
that like
I love giving out art.
Yeah,
in
like
games,
or and things that aren't just coins and gems. Like it could be like there's a goblet, and it's like, okay, well they could just sell that goblet for a couple gold, and that's cool. Or, maybe one of the characters is like, no, that's my goblet now. The character then turns into a drunk at that point or something like that.
Sure.
Which could be interesting. It's like, because of how cool they thought this goblet was, they're now going to start drinking more. And that kind of creates the problems later on in the adventure.
I think I mentioned 2 of my previous characters had keepsakes that they always had on them that were like fine plates that they found that could have otherwise been treasure. And then at one point, one of them got rid of it as a symbolic running away from his hometown.
Right.
And then the other one threw it at a kobold and hit him in the face. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I personally prefer picking out, like planning out in advance stuff, because I really like giving out magic items and I like making them more unique.
Yeah.
I like coming up with cool ideas for magic items, or even taking existing magic items and adding stuff to them.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, sometimes I have rolled on random tables and it's been great. I've talked about Iron Claw, which was an intelligent gauntlet of rust that I gave to Jay in one of our games. And that was like one of the most memorable magic items I ever gave out. And it's because I sat down and I was like, I want to give out a bunch of random loot. So I rolled for all the random loot. And I noticed in 3.5, there was a little clause that was like 1% of every magic item, or 1% of the magic items are intelligent. And so I went down the list of the items I had come up with, rolled to see if it's intelligent. Nope. Yes. And then I rolled randomly to determine what its abilities were, what its alignment was, what its intelligence score was. And it was hilarious, the end result. So,
right, I was always asking if people are righteous or something.
Yeah, because he was lawful good, and I was like, how do you even play a lawful good gauntlet of rust? But and so its personality meshed well with Jay's character's personality, and then it showed up in the Age of Worms campaign as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had good experiences with both. Generally speaking, though, I like to plan them out in advance.
Right. So I feel like I kind of go back and forth on like tailoring magic items specifically for characters and stuff like that. I like the idea of that because like if a player is building their character in a specific way, they kind of like they do put magic items into their minds when they do that.
Sure.
Like it's like, well, I do expect to get something of this type, like my guy's gonna be really good at daggers, so like I want to get a nice cool magical dagger.
Yeah.
But like tailoring it too specifically to exactly what the player wants, I feel like could be boring because like what they're figuring out a way to use a random piece of treasure to like build upon what your character is doing. Like if your character could be like really into swords and it's all about swords, but then you find a magic hammer and it's like really good and it works really well with your abilities. You're like, I'm about this hammer now. Like I'm Mr. Hammer.
Yeah. I always think it's weird when a player is using some like very specific weapon from like a source book or something, from like a third party source book.
Oh.
And then in order to have treasure to give to that player, the DM just has that bizarre weapon show up more and more. Like, oh, this entire group of enemies all have elven thin blades. So you get a better elven thin blade than the elven thin blade you started with. And meanwhile, everybody else is like, what the heck is an elven thin blade?
Right.
Well, it's whatever.
Or you start like implementing stuff where it's like, you're not getting new magic items. You're getting things that augment the ones that you already have.
That's definitely a thing.
Or it's like, you're like, well, there's this guy in town who's just really good at taking the magical properties from one thing and putting it into another, so you can kind of like transfer stuff. Like it's like, well, this is my family's sword and I have to use this sword, but I wanted to do that.
And that's why I specifically try to avoid that trope nowadays. When I make a character, if they use a weapon, it is like specifically not their family's weapon,
right?
Like I don't know. I try to have it not be something they're sentimentally attached to, because then they aren't going to set it aside and pick up a new weapon.
Right.
So then you have to shoehorn in all of these weird, arbitrary ways to transfer abilities to it and so on, like you were saying.
To like, give it a +1, you have to have some like you accidentally dropped it in some adamantine or something.
I mean, I guess I'm actually kind of proud of how I did that with Steve's axe. That came out of the necessity of like, Steve likes this particular axe.
Sure.
How can I make his axe better without just giving him a new one?
Yeah.
And so I had to come up with creative ways to do that. So, again, I like planning it out in advance, but hey, random loot sometimes can be fun. And you never know when a player is going to be like, I really like this. I'm going to stick with this now.
Right. Cause like they're thinking along the lines of what they were expecting for their
Sure.
their character, But then when they've come along and find something that's like they've never seen before, they're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I can make so much mayonnaise.
There you go.
You know what? I'm going to become a crime lord based on payments of mayonnaise.
Oh, goodness. I want to have that gang show up in a future campaign.
the mayonnaise crew.
I think that because I came up with some name, I have it written down somewhere. I came up with a name for them, and it was translated to the mayonnaise eaters or something in Elven. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, yeah, so I don't be surprised if they show up someday.
Right. Our next question comes from Deborah Soar on Discord.
Oh, and hey, Discord. Go check out our Discord.
Yeah.
Join our Discord. It's free to everybody.
Yes.
You just find the link on our Facebook or Reddit.
Yes.
Or message us to get it or something.
Right, yeah. Yep. How would you go about playing at level 0?
Yeah, so this is not a session 0, because we've talked about session 0. Session 0 is like when you have a session before the campaign starts to work out character details, work out scheduling, that sort of stuff. What this is, I'm almost positive Deborah Soar is asking here, is how you play a game where your characters are not adventurers yet.
Right, yeah, because if you think about it, like a level 1 fighter is incredibly powerful, like versus like just me sitting in this chair here. I would not stand a chance against a level 1 anything.
Sure.
But like, you know, against Gabe, I might put up a fight. I don't know.
Is that a compliment to me or an insult to me? I can't tell.
I don't know. So, is that a challenge?
Right. So yeah, the idea is like if you wanted to have a campaign where at the beginning your characters aren't even as skilled as a first level character.
Right.
What do? Let's say you're just like a farmhand.
Yeah.
And then some orcs attack. And in the middle of the attack, you pick up a pitchfork and you get a lucky shot on them or something.
Yeah.
So you feel like, maybe I should go and do this some more. In your mind, you might not be a fighter or whatever.
There's like a like you look over and there's like an assortment of like farming tools and all of them are suspiciously like class varied,
yes.
It's like
there's like a staff, there's
there's like
a dagger.
Right. It's just like, like a pitchfork thing, or there's like just like a hunting bow or something like that.
Sure.
And like there's probably like labels above them, like it's like ranger, mage.
Yeah.
Or how did they do that in Kingdom Hearts? Like there is like you were just in a platform in a void, like all JRPGs.
Jeff, please don't invoke Kingdom Hearts on this show.
You have to there's a shield, a sword, and a magic wand.
Yeah,
you have to like give up one, choose one, and give up one. So you have you're strong in one but weak in another, and then the third one is just sort of your middle ground.
And then wasn't it some weird thing that it's like you decide whether you are going to gain experience faster at early levels and slower at later levels or something?
Yeah, there was like a series of like little questions that you answer. It's like one of those like Facebook personality test crap. But it basically dictated like, do you level up fast in the beginning but slower at the end, or vice versa, or kind of leveled out. Yeah, that was just weird. It was weird.
Please don't bring up Kingdom Hearts ever again. I have very frustrated opinions on Kingdom Hearts. Anyway.
Simple and clean. Sorry.
Please, Jeff, no. Jeff, I will edit you out of this podcast. It's just me sitting here in a room talking to myself. So, playing at level 0. In 3rd edition, there were what were called NPC classes. That it was in the Dungeon Master's Guide. It was basically stats for non-player characters, and in theory, they were set up the same way as a class, as a player class, except that they were pretty weak compared to, like, you could play a warrior, which was very similar to the fighter, but it didn't get any bonus feats, and I think it had a lower. Had got fewer hit points. So you could, in theory, make a character that was a warrior, but you would be explicitly weaker than a fighter of the same level. Mm-hmm. There was an expert, which was kind of like the rogue. You didn't get any sneak attack or anything like that, but you got a whole bunch of skills. You could choose like 10 skills or something, and you were good at all those skills. And there was the adept, which was kind of like wizard, but not as good. You got less spells and your spell progression was slower. And then there was Commoner, which really didn't have any benefits of anything. It had the lowest hit die.
Yeah.
It had the worst saves. It had the fewest skills.
It was basically just a way to have stats for a, like, Joe Schmo.
Sure. So in 3rd edition, it was very easy to play a level 0 character. You just pick one of those NPC classes, and then after the first session or two, you instead remake your character as a PC class.
Yeah.
Real simple. That's just what you do. In 5th edition, I kind of feel like you could do the same thing. You could probably use the same stats for the most part, because they're not the same, but there is enough of a similarity.
Yeah.
Or you could just look at the class that you want to play and then just kind of take away some of the abilities. I guess, work with your DM to figure out stuff like that.
Yeah. It could be, you could just sort of toy with like the proficiency system a little bit, like, because you start off with +2, maybe it's just a +1 instead, or it's like a +1 but only in like very few things, because like a fighter has like proficiency with basically all weapons.
Sure.
But maybe you're Jake the farmhand and you're proficient with a gardening tool.
Yeah.
So like you can use that as a weapon, but not much else. Like,
That's a neat idea, having the player not be proficient with any weapons at first,
right?
Except for maybe the one that you started with.
Yeah, you kind of have to like gain the proficiencies in the things that your class is. So like there might be like a level 0 progression where you're like gaining the proficiencies in all the things that your class does.
Yeah.
So like you start off like you don't really, you're not adding your proficiency to anything, but like, every time you swing your sword, you're putting a point into your sword proficiency or something.
I suppose the question I have to ask though, and this isn't a knock against you, I'm sure a lot of people have a similar thought process when trying to do this. The question I have to ask is like, at what point are you just making a new game?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
How much work do you want to put into this? Because presumably this won't be for very long. I think the idea is that you will become level 1 fairly quickly.
Yeah, I would imagine like stuff like this. I'd want, as a player, I know I wouldn't want it to be for very long.
Yeah.
Like a prologue sort of thing where it's like, okay, like maybe like the first encounter, is this, but like then afterwards you kind of like you muster the strength to like, to be like, what? No, I'm a fighter now.
Yeah.
Or it could just be like a little flashback thing or something like that. Or, little origin story.
Sure. Now, I mean, I'm not against the idea of an entire campaign where you are explicitly like a quote unquote normal person. But at that point, you're not playing D&D anymore. Like I would rather use a different game system for something like that.
Sure.
And I do actually have a fairly simple response to this. I'll get to that at the end, though. I want to read, because this was on the Discord. Our good friend Jay replied with one of his experiences.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to summarize what he said there. He said he has run sessions where you're like 0 sessions before. He had all the players make townsfolk and tell him their job and 2 skills that they were good at. Then they rolled ability scores and did their racial modifiers. He had them each start with 6 hit points plus their constitution modifier, so like a very small amount of hit points.
Sure.
And then the story was, for that session, their town was getting invaded by hobgoblins. Their goal was just to get out alive, either, by themselves or with some other survivors. And then he had some encounters and they had to make some tough choices. And then at the end, they found a cache of gear, and then they got to pick their class by what items they picked. And then once the session was over, he had to make, actual first level characters. I think that's a really neat idea.
I think, because that is sort of one of those, like they do that sort of thing in like video games, like we were talking about, like the Kingdom Hearts thing. Sorry.
Sorry.
But I feel like you have like a sort of a gauntlet of different scenarios that you put the characters through. Cause like maybe they have an idea of what they want to play, but maybe by the end of that, they're like, wait, no, that sneaking around part was kind of fun. I want to be a rogue. Like it was like I was gonna be a fighter because who doesn't want to just have a bunch of armor and sword and shield or whatever.
Sure.
But when we were doing that sneaking around thing, I got to like sneak up on a guy and hit him real hard. That was fun. I'm gonna be a rogue instead. Like I picked the dagger.
Yeah, if you can make that work, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then, especially if the players don't already have strong ideas of what type of class they want to play.
Right.
Then they could learn along with you how much or what class they want to be.
Yeah.
So I think that could be really fun. And from the sounds of it, his players love that as well. I do, though, have a simple answer to this question.
Uh-huh.
Just play the game, but don't describe your character as being a hero.
Right.
I've said before, and some people have disagreed with this, and that's fine, but my opinion is that your class, your level, all of those mechanics are mechanics.
Yeah.
They are not part of the story unless you want them to be.
Right.
You can be a 5th level fighter, but story-wise, you're just a farmhand.
Yeah.
You could be.
Yeah.
Depends on how much you want to incorporate the mechanics into the game. And if you want to, that's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong.
I feel like that gets tricky later on. At some point, you kind of have to transition a little bit, because being a farmhand who can do the things that a level 15 fighter can.
I mean, I guess it comes down to what tasks you are completing, what feats you are accomplishing.
Yeah,
that's really what's going to make it feel weird.
Yeah,
being a quote unquote normal person with a ton of hit points and whatever. But especially at low level, for the first session, story-wise, your character's just a normal dude. Your character doesn't have any sort of cool skills. Maybe even tie this into not having the equipment. And then once you get your equipment, that's when you can use your stats exactly as they're on their sheet.
Now, I have attempted something like this in the past, but I did it slightly differently, and it didn't work out.
Okay.
The character from Age of Worms.
Okay.
My first character from Age of Worms.
Yeah.
But the problem with that was I was trying to make the mechanics work in that. I was trying to dull down. I was trying to make the mechanics more mundane.
Yeah.
When I should have just made a ranger who was a good built, a well-built ranger, but then he was just a hunter. I just wanted him to make him just like a hunter-gatherer type, and that was just his shtick. He was like a trapper in the hills or something like that.
Yeah.
But then I tried to build his mechanics around that, and it ended up being underpowered because I was like, well, we're not hunting deer right now, so there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that isn't a bad way to make a character.
Right.
But it didn't really fit the campaign, and it didn't seem like it was fun for you.
Yeah, it was the cool things I liked about the character were never gonna come up, so I wasn't gonna have fun with it. So
yeah. So anyway, we had you make a new character,
which then I tried a for us untested class, which ended up not doing so well.
You kind of changed course again. But we incorporated it into the story pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
So
Gabe saved my butt. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's a few different ways of doing a level 0 character, and depending on how much you want to incorporate the mechanics, you could do what Jay did and kind of have the players just pick a couple things that they're good at, and then eventually build up into their character as the adventure goes on. You could try and just make a dumbed down version of whatever class you're choosing. Yeah. Or you could just use the stats as they're in the book, but then just describe it differently until you come of age or whatever. So lots of different ways to approach that, and none of them are bad.
Yeah, I feel like an easy way is to just you don't start off with all of your equipment or something like that, and then
equipment is probably the easiest change to make.
Yeah, because if you already have a suit of armor and sword and a shield and stuff like that, that's adding 2 to your AC, and you have such and such damage that you use when the best a commoner is going to have at their hands is a club.
Yeah,
that's it.
Have you ever seen the movie Kung Fu Hustle?
Yes,
that's a really good movie, and it starts out. It's just there's this little kind of apartment building in the slums of, I don't know, China or wherever the heck it takes place. And it's just all these people. It's like a tenement building, I think is the term for it.
Right.
It's all these people living in this building, and suddenly this gang shows up and starts attacking people. And you've been meeting characters throughout this. There's been this guy this tailor is one of the characters that you meet. And then there's another character that is he's a baker. And then another character, I can't remember what the third character is, but when this gang shows up, you see each of these characters sort of like take on the role that they need to take on. The baker, when he gets attacked, grabs this pole off of the wall and starts fighting off the guys with this pole. And he turns out he has this fighting style using this staff.
Right.
And then
like a rolling pin or something.
It's like a long staff. You like something. I don't remember how it worked into him being a baker. But.
Right. I feel like they're like, their fighting style was like tied into what they were. Their profession
and then
was.
The tailor. He does this thing. He has all these like metal rings that he like hang stuff from. He slams his fist down on the thing. Yeah. The rings fly up in the air and he catches them all on his arms. And his fighting style is all about like basically using them as shields, like swinging his arms around in such a way that the metal rings all like impact each other and become like a solid block for a split second.
Right. Yeah.
And then this third guy is just a martial artist. I don't really remember what his deal was, but it's these three guys that, I guess within the fiction, they are accomplished martial artists, but in the frame of the movie, they're just normal people. And then it's when they get called upon, when the call to action happens, they use what is around them in order to fight off the invaders.
Yeah.
And I think that's you could use sort of a similar thing to try and fit that sort of theme into your game.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for the week. However, we do have our social media discussion questions. Last week's social media discussion question was, you can have one iconic magic item in real life. What do you choose and why? And I left what iconic means as intentionally vague.
Sure.
Do you recall what your answer was?
Just like as a simple one, it was the periaptive health, makes you immune to disease. It's like, oh, okay. Like I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
But I also was thinking the cubic gate would be crazy.
Oh, sure. Because it like lets travel really easily.
Yeah, you can travel between planes, whatever that would be in real life. Means, yeah. But in any case, it involves.
Oh, lets you go from the 747 over to the Delta. Southwest
gates. I get you.
And because the different planes.
Yeah, because you got to go to your gate.
Yeah,
to get onto your plane.
That's a bad joke.
Oh,
all right,
you know what? That is a. Dang it! It's just a magical dice or the magical cube that helps you get around the airport better.
There you go. Hey, that would be helpful.
That'd be pretty helpful.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I think that my answer was like Helm of Teleportation or something, just because in my life as it is now, travel or like commuting seems to be the most frustrating part of my life, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot of time out of your day where you're not doing anything because you're traveling. So that's, I think, anything that involves like, transportation in a quick way. I was hoping to get something like a pocket dimension or something, because I want to store all my stuff so I can just, no matter where I'm at. So even if I am traveling on the road or something like that, and I like, you know what, I just want to sit down and do a thing real quick. I just pull out my portable hole and like there's my desk down there, and I can,
Yeah, one of those things that it's like a little like a workshop or something. You just like toss it out and bam, it becomes a extra dimensional workshop. I think that would be really
cool.
Like
the Capsule Corporation in the Dragon Ball series.
Pretty much,
where you like click a thing, throw it down, and it goes bun.
In the bun, exactly. In the Adventure Zone, they had the Pocket Spa.
The Pocket Spa,
which was you pull it out and there's like a hot tub and there's like sandwiches and cucumber water.
Oh, that's great. The Pocket Spa, that sounds amazing.
Anyway, so we got a few responses. Most of them were on Discord. Actually, there was quite a bit of discussion on Discord. But we'll start off on Facebook. John G says immovable rod because it's super versatile.
Yeah,
and then he provided a photo from an episode of The Simpsons with the inanimate carbon rod that everybody was praising because it's the episode Homer Goes to Space. There's too much explanation needed. Anyway, Brandon B says portable hole, and then I would just throw everything I can in it.
Right.
So
you just like you can keep it in your pocket, and then you're just like, well, I'm gonna like you don't have to like carry stuff. Like you don't need a truck Like,
yeah.
You can get the most like fuel efficient little car you want, and then it's like, well, if you need to like move some stuff around, you don't have like. I miss having a truck. I don't know if I've talked about that.
No, I understand.
But go on.
If it weren't for the fact that I hate driving trucks, I would want a truck because it'd be cool to be able to transport stuff.
Right, exactly.
And then when all my friends come and ask to borrow my truck, I would just say, oh gosh, I am busy.
Right. Well, in this case, you wouldn't actually have a truck.
That's a good point.
So like people wouldn't ask you to help them move because it's like, well, I don't have a truck.
When someone shows up to ask me to help them move, I could just hop inside the portable hole and they can't find me. Anyway, RJ says Ring of Three Wishes. we'll get to that in a minute. Somebody else said the same thing.
Sure.
Sorry, RJ. Don't mean to. We'll get to you.
Yeah.
And then Lath says Bag of Holding. Reason to piss off Gabe. Again, well, I think we'll get to more of that later. He's joking though. He says handy haversack, which is notably different from the Bag of Holding.
Yeah.
He said being a photographer, that could come in quite handy, and I could pack a lot in there, and it's always right there. So it's always everything you need is like right on top.
Right. Yeah. So like for photographer, different like lenses and stuff like that. Like I've definitely seen photographers with like many bags and stuff like that they got to carry for all their equipment. So yeah, something like that would be really cool.
We'll actually get to Discord last just because there's so many on there. There's only one on Reddit. Javokler says, as a 30-year-old male, I live through the struggle of not being able to grow a beard.
Oh.
So without question, I would want the belt of dwarven kind. You have a 50% chance of growing a full beard at sunrise. That's my only hope at having a full beard one day.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
I like responses like this as opposed to the Ring of Three Wishes.
Right, sure. It's like, it's just like, I want a beard. Say the belt of dwarven kind. What else does that belt do? Does it give you like dark vision or something?
I think it does. I think so. It might let you also speak dwarven or something.
So yeah, like there's more things that are more like obviously useful, but then like being able to grow a beard every morning, like that's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Over on Twitter, David E says Ring of Regeneration. I would use it in a hospital that I work in.
Sure,
and that's man, talk about altruism right there. Like that would be a really cool use for it.
Yeah.
Like heck, if someone came in with like an amputated limb, you just put the ring on them and then their limb grows back.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
Is that what that does?
If I'm not mistaken, one of the benefits is you put it on and because the regeneration spell makes you immediately regrow limbs. The Ring of Regeneration, I think, gives you like very slow, fast healing, but also if you are missing any limbs, they grow back.
Oh. Well, that's
if
cool.
I recall. I might be thinking of 3.5.
So heck, like that plus the periaptive health or something like that.
Hold on, we'll get to periaptive health in a moment. So yeah, I asked this on Discord as well. The Beverage Tea says Bag of Holding with the understanding that it is just a bag. Shopping for everything would be so much easier, as would air travel.
Right. Yeah.
And most of
carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Most of the discussion on here comes down to the bag of holding. Noah Wizard says, you know the movie Ted, where the conceit is this planet just has a talking teddy bear.
Right.
And when they explore what life is like, slightly different from regular life because of that one magic thing. I want to live on a planet that is the same as ours, but I own an immovable rod. I feel like it's low-level magic enough that it wouldn't be fought over as the mega weapon that everyone wants. It's just a rod that doesn't move. It mostly only has utility effects. I would like to be a D-list celebrity known as the guy who has that rod thing. Right. So very similar back on Facebook. John was saying the immovable rod,
Right, yeah. It's like I need to hang up my clothes here real quick. Like, there's not a ton you could do with the immovable rod. There's a few stronger things you can do. Like you can bar a door, But again, like if somebody wants to get through a door, they just need to break the door. The immovable rod is just a rod.
Sure.
But anyway.
Yeah. Debrasor says, the Book of Vile Darkness.
Oh my goodness.
I would put it on my bookshelf, and if anyone asked about it, I would say, oh, don't worry about that.
Like they would never use it. They would just have it as like this ominous thing.
I kind of want to just make a Book of Vile Darkness as like a prop and just have it there.
Like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it.
Make it so that when you open it up, it screams. Exactly. And then we got into a big long discussion about the bag of holding. And I want to say, so I don't know why, but I got, for some reason, recently I got it into my head that, because one of the things there are very few details given in the DMG about bag of holding. This is not going to be bag of holding cast today. I just want to say, there are very few details given in the Dungeon Master's Guide about what actually happens when you do X or Y with the bag of holding.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I got it in my head that the air being limited in a bag of holding, for some reason, I thought that was not actually in the text. But it is.
Okay.
Like it is. And I meant in this discussion, I use that as a big point of argument. I don't know why I thought that. I must have like either stopped reading halfway through or maybe I read a different version of it or something.
Or you just think it's like a canvas bag, air gets through it.
Well, that's what I always thought, because here's the question. Why doesn't air get into it?
Right.
Everybody always talks about how, if you open it up underwater, water's going to fill it up and it's going to explode. Why does water automatically go in if air doesn't automatically go in? And I mean, the water is not in the DMG. That's not a thing that is said in the rules.
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, I don't want to get into this again. Just bags of holding, guys. It's just a bag.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bag of holding with a Tarrasque in it. Gabe's worst enemy.
It wouldn't fit, Jeff. Come on.
It's just like his foot sticking in it.
So Adam B on Discord says, this one's actually difficult, but due to working with animals, I would definitely choose the Staff of the Woodlands.
Oh, cool.
It has spells. You can use an action to cast some spells from it. You've got Animal Friendship, Awaken, Bark Skin, Locate Animals or Plants, Speak with Animals, Speak with Plants, or Wall of Thorns. And you can use Pass Without Trace without using any charges. He said, I would use Animal Friendship on new animals that arrive in the facility to help them settle in.
Aww.
Bark Skin to deal with animal activists who are well-intended but misinformed. Locate Animals for finding those animals that like to hide. Speak with Animals to ask them to move when I'm cleaning. Ask them what's wrong or generally chat. I really want to know what our gorillas are thinking sometimes. And finally, Pass Without Trace to avoid the public who asks stupid questions. There you go.
I love that it's like you're like trying to clean the enclosure and like it's like, I need to get in that corner. I need to get there. Please. Move, please. Sorry.
I would love Speak with Animals so that I can tell my dog,
shut up.
The person across the street lives there. They are not invading your home.
Yeah.
Stop barking at them. They're not going away.
Yeah.
They live there.
That's where they live. That's their home.
That is their home. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so Sandphobia said, I would say the Ring of Three Wishes. Very powerful and so many things you could wish for: money, live forever, and so on. I responded to this. I mentioned that when I was posing this question in the first place, I considered specifically saying you can't say the Ring of Three Wishes. Just because, I mean,
it's the Ring of Three Wishes.
Of course, everybody wants the Ring of Three Wishes.
Because it's like if the idea is you pick one magic item, it's like, well, I can do the Ring of Three Wishes and wish for 3 magic items, or
well, there you go,
or whatever.
But I didn't say that, so I'm not blaming anybody who said Ring of Three Wishes. But hey, we're gonna call you out on picking the easy answer.
It's just friendly teasing. It's fine.
Yes. And I think Sandphobia actually did say something else, but I skipped some stuff. So Peace Joy Pancakes also says bag of holding. Then she references Mary Poppins and Hermione with her handbag. So,
right.
Convenient.
Yeah, for sure.
JL Sim 85 says, I think the periaptive health would be amazing. You become immune to contracting diseases while wearing it. For something more fun, maybe the boots of striding and springing, tripling your jump distance could be a great time.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like the jump just distance of an actual human is not very far. I mean, like, obviously they're Olympic athletes and such, but like tripling, like I can only jump like a few feet, but tripling that, like I could do some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Holy Blade 777 says Staff of Healing. They are a medical professional, and so if they had a literal magic rod that could heal the injuries of their patients, they'd be ecstatic. I can totally understand that.
Sure.
Sandphobia did chime in saying the Manual of Golems.
Oh,
so
right.
Like a manual that lets them build golems.
Yeah. So like
that works, I guess.
Right, because then you could just build golems.
Build a golem, yeah.
Like, because the book doesn't expire when you make a golem, does it?
I'm actually not sure. I think it might. In 3rd edition, I know it was like it has all the magic for one golem. Oh, but even still, it's a golem.
Yeah, it's a golem.
You get a freaking golem.
Yeah, you get like a pal, like a buddy, like a little helper man.
And then through all this, Damien was the first person to say Broom of Flying.
Right. Well, because yeah, like flying, like I don't know, flying is like really fun. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like it'd be a cool thing. Like, you know, I don't know.
And
not that I've flown before.
Right. And I think he was picking that because there wasn't an item that gives you infinite teleportation. Like I said, like the helmet teleportation, which is
I think
3 times per day or something.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, if I couldn't pick an item of teleportation, I would have picked an item of flying.
Which I think, although I think 3 times per day for teleportation is about right, because it's like you go to work, you come home, or like
if you need more teleportation,
and then one
than
for an emergency.
Sure,
you know?
there
like
you go.
need to
there
get
you
out
go.
somewhere, you know. Like,
and then Jay did say staff of teleportation. I actually don't recall what is different about the staff, but I think
maybe it's just more charges.
Maybe it's probably more like the rest of the staffs, that it's like it has a certain number of charges per day or whatever.
Maybe it's like you can do blink, or
maybe
it's like blink and then one's teleportation's one circle of teleportation. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like teleportation would be the best just because of how much time you spend.
Yeah, especially
traveling.
in America. In America, like commutes of like I spend about 3 hours commuting every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
not each direction, but like all together.
Total commute
it's
a day.
awful.
Yeah, same here. It's about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah. So anyway, that was last week's social media question. This week's is, what is your favorite weapon or fighting style?
So like I like swords. I just
Swords are pretty cool.
They're just like they're very iconic and heroic and just like elegant in their own way. But I've been using like things like hammers more often.
Okay.
I like hammers.
Sure.
There was like a Warforged character that I had, Wedge, that had a really big
old hammer.
Yeah, just because like I named him Wedge because he'd wedge his way into things. Like he was just bull rushing and then just hit something with a hammer so hard it'd make them go flying. Or
yeah, he had awesome blow. I think you'd like knock them 50 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
I would probably say sword and board.
Sword and board?
Like from what little time I spent foam sword fighting, I really did enjoy Sword and Shield. I thought it was really cool. There's other stuff that's cool too, but that's the classic, I think, is the one I like.
I know, like the Monster Hunter games, there's like all the different, there's the different weapon styles in that game, so there's a lot that are kind of fun. Like one of them is just like a big giant hammer, and it's really powerful, but really like tricky because it's just slow.
Yeah.
But then there's like things like daggers where you're really fast, and there's a staff that you can basically vault in the air with and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know, lot of cool stuff. But yeah, just like a basic, like even just mundane weapons. Like what is your the weapon that you choose for your character most of the time? Doesn't have to be magic in any way. Just like, do you like playing a character that shoots a bow, or do you prefer one that throws weapons instead?
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing people's responses to that.
Yep.
So I guess that'll do it for our questions. So let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. Let's relax. Let's remember those that have come before us as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre comes from TB via email, and it says, "Hi, Gabe." Not you, Jeff. This is just to me.
Oh, okay.
"This is for the funeral pyre. I have a family of gnomes that are the equivalent of your Ichi. A member of the Mossy Oaks Timbers show up in every adventure I run. A particular gnome who ended up on the pyre was Namfoodle Timbers.
Oh.
He was the gnome who bedazzled the white leather vest that his brother, the Master Gem Cutter, valued so highly. Well, ever the charlatan, Namfoodle assumed his brother's identity and went on an adventure. While walking in the woods, he fell behind the party when he saw something sparkly off in the bushes. As luck would have it, he ended up upside down 40 feet in the air with a rope around one ankle. The party's brave, strong fighter ran under him and told him to jump. Namfoodle's foot slipped out of his boot and down he fell. Cue the fighter's critical miss.
Oh, no.
The subsequent damage rolls exceeded Namfoodle's HP past 0. So it was sayonara forever.
Oh, no.
His brother values his bedazzled vest all the much more now.
Oh, no.
And so we raise a glass and we say, sayonara, Namfoodle Timbers. May you be bedazzling vests in the afterlife. Clink. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games. We're playing through Borderlands 2 right now.
Awesome.
We actually have a couple extra friends of ours playing with us.
Is Borderlands 2 the one where there's like a DLC where you basically play through a D&D adventure?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I think that's the Tiny Tina DLC. I want to say.
I think so.
Yep.
I've never played it, but I've seen videos about it.
Yep.
Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
I like turtles.